Hey guys, this is Yazuki Wolf, and today I'm going to be showing you some KAKI-MOJI, or some examples of ways you can draw KAKI-MOJI, aka comic text, I guess, for sound effects. I said it in my last video, but I prefer the term KAKI-MOJI. It's just a little bit easier to say than saying out sound effects, and so I'm going to be using that for the rest of this video. And you maybe all notice that I have some already drawn here, and that's because this is actually my second attempt, my second attempt at this video. The first video, I had some issues with the table shaking, and when I looked at the footage afterwards, it seemed that it wasn't something I wanted to present on YouTube. So hopefully this time will go a little bit better. So let's see. First we have the garuru in the upper left-hand corner. In case you can't read katakana, this is garururu. That's the Japanese sound of something growling. So this is the sort of like a werewolf in the background, and this is the sound of him hiding in the shadows. Here I had a yell. This is a katakana for ah, so you put all of them together, it's like ah, it's kind of like a yelling sound. And we also did some splatter on this, which I want to go into possibly in this video, or if time seems to be running long, we might put it in a second, split it into two parts and have that be the second video. I'm not sure, but that's a really fun thing to do, and I'd like to show that again. Now, to get started, let's start with a simple one. Here we have the opening of this bottle, wherein it says pon right here in katakana, and this is probably one of the simplest uses of KAKI-MOJI, because it's just a very small lettering, and it's just to be a very simple sound that kind of just adds to the feeling of that particular frame. So this way, there's so many, you could do this however you want. I'm gonna try to use a MIDI pen. Hopefully this has ink in it. Let me get some scrap paper real quick. Alright, so let's see here. Yeah, this is fine. This one might be a little too thick though. Well, actually no, it seems okay. Cool. So let's go ahead, and first I'm just gonna do some kind of like a bubble effect of like a pop sound. So this is not actually lettering, it's just like a pop effect, I guess you could call it. All right. And now we're gonna go ahead and just write our pon. So here's the katakana for ho. I'm just going to do fairly block texty, and when you add a circle in the upper right hand corner, it changes it to po. Then here's the n sound, and I think in my original drawing I had like a 10 chisai tsu here, which I discussed in my other video, is something that makes the sound more quicker, like cut off short. I don't know if I necessarily want that here. I think I like the idea of just being pon instead of like pon. Like, I don't know. Well, I don't know, maybe. Well, I think it's fine how it is. So that's probably good enough. So that's the simplest KAKI-MOJI you could do. So let's go to something a little bit more advanced. We'll go to the one above here. It's gabu, and this is the sound of something biting into something else. And I don't know if it really needs to be this big, but I wanted to kind of show some block texting. So let's go ahead and go over this with. I think what I want to use is an even thicker MIDI pen. So I'm going to use a 0.8, which is usually what I use for the lines of the framing. So it's usually the thickest line I have on the paper, and I wouldn't suggest using this for when you're drawing just regular parts of your, like an outline of your character or something, because then it gets kind of confusing with the outline of your character versus the outline of the actual frame. But for this sort of like very large block text KAKI-MOJI, I think it is appropriate. So we're just gonna go ahead and I think you obviously could just draw like a line here, and then draw another line from here, and then go around this way. But if you feel that you want to kind of just draw straight through, like I'm not going to actually do it here because I don't have the time to do the other steps, but if you wanted to just draw straight through and not actually make the separation, because you can see right here how this line doesn't look like it's perfectly lined up with this line. It might be a good idea to just draw straight through, and then afterwards to go over this area with white, so that way you could keep like kind of a white area in the middle. And you know what? Actually, yeah, let me go ahead and try doing that. I was originally not going to, because I didn't want to spend the time waiting for it to dry, but we could come back to it, I think, if that's the case. So let's go ahead and draw straight through here. So I have like a block here. My MIDI pen is a bit old, so it's not, the ink is not coming out as smooth as it probably would if you have a new one. Once again, these two lines in the upper right corner, that changes the ka sound to a ga sound. So another thing you might see if you're doing a comic in Japanese, you might see that if you want it to be a soft sound, a lot of times it won't have the two line, the like kind of, they call it 10-10 in Japanese, so let's call it that. There's a 10-10. You often wouldn't see that if you're doing a very soft sound, but if you want it to be stronger, you would add it, because linguistically what it's doing is it's changing something to it's changing a voice, a non-voice sound to a voice sound. So you have like ha turns into ba, and what else have we got? Like ka turns into ga. You know, it's a matter of, if it's unvoiced, it's ka, but if you have the voice in your throat, it turns into ga. So if you want something to be stronger, you put the 10-10. For example, let me see. I'll think of an example while I'm drawing, I think. So here there's like Giza Giza, Saku Saku. I think I'll have to double check this to make sure this is correct, but I think you might see something like Saku Saku is like unvoiced Saku Saku that you could then add a 10 to turn to Zaku Zaku if you want it to be stronger. Yeah, I may have to do a separate video to talk about the actual sounds, because like I said in my last video, it's something I struggled with, because it's not as directly kind of translatable to English, and so I think it's a lot of cultural elements involved that kind of make it hard to be completely clear about, to be completely simply understood by a non-native person. So I think if I wanted to go into more detail about that for you, I would have to probably do that in a video where I am kind of like, I've done some homework ahead of time so that I know that I'm giving you accurate information, since it's not something I'm very skilled at by myself to remember everything offhand. All right, so there we go. We have our gabu, and I mentioned that, so for the part that we have the line going over, you could go over that again with like a white ink pen, or just white ink as it is. But before we do that, you may be able to see, I'm not sure, but in the original outline I have some action lines here. So this isn't actually a video about action lines, but just to kind of give you an idea of the feel of this, I'll go ahead and go and make some of those action lines. Let me just get a ruler real quick. Okay, so the outline actually had some action lines in the background, so I went ahead and added those off camera. If you want to learn more about doing action lines, or I think I call it focus lines, I have a video about that, specifically about that. But just to give you the idea of what the KAKI-MOJI would be like with those action lines in the background, I went ahead and added that. And you may also notice that, well, one thing is that while I was doing that, I actually had a gob of ink on my pen, and it dropped here, so that kind of messed up this area, but we'll fix that in the future. The other thing is that I drew the lines directly through some of the parts of the actual KAKI-MOJI, and that's because we can now go over that with a white pen. Let's see if I have ink in this one. Looks like I do. I'm not sure how good this will be, but I think what I actually want to do is I want to have the inside of the KAKI-MOJI to kind of complement the action lines. So first I'm just going to get rid of this part here that was that I drew straight through. So I'm using my my white ink pen to kind of cover that up, and you're going to have to give that some time to dry. Usually I would give it a lot more time, but since I just want to get through this for this video, I'm going to go ahead and keep going. I'm just going to use a MIDI pen for this, and I'm just going to follow the same sort of kind of lines as the action lines, and put lines inside of my KAKI-MOJI. So let's start from maybe down here. Be like. Alright, there we are. So now that just gives it a little kind of color to the inside of the KAKI-MOJI. And so now to clean it up, I'm going to go ahead and make a white outline around the outside and also around the inside of the what do you call it, the outline of the so I'm going to make a white outline around the inside and outside of the black outline of the characters, of the emoji. Moji in Japanese means letter, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so that for the most part is what I wanted to accomplish. I noticed since it's been a while since I've actually worked analog, I forgot, but you really need to wait for the paint to dry before you, or the ink to dry before you start applying the white. I had added some more ink to the side here to make a stronger dark line here. And then when I tried to go over with the white ink, it actually started mixing the white with the black and made it kind of a gray. So now I have this kind of like squishy, like squashed area here that's really not particularly neat looking. So what we're gonna have to do is just wait for that to dry and then come back later and put another layer of white over it. But you can see that the main thing I was trying to accomplish is just to make it so that the letters are still very readable. So you have the lines that are running through them, and you have all the lines that are going on inside to give it some girth, I guess. But you still have the white that kind of gives some separation, so that it's not completely just blending into the action lines in the background. And I may go back and fix that a little bit more after the ink is dried. I was trying to rush a little bit to go through all of these today, but yeah, if you are going to be using white ink or white out or like liquid paper or something to kind of fix things afterwards, make sure you give it an hour or two to have the black ink dry first. So I'm remembering now some of the issues I had when I used to work in analog, but there you go. So let's go ahead and move on. Next to that we have gusa, which is the sound of this sword-like shaft that's stabbing into something underneath it. You know, it's very ambiguous. I'm not really trying to tell a story here. I'm just kind of trying to show you the KAKI-MOJI. But this is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier with the voiced and unvoiced. So the sound of something stabbing something would be kusa, or Kusa. But putting the ten tenders into gusa, which makes it like a stronger stab. So if it just was like a quick stab, it might just be kusa. But if it's a really deep, like strong stab, it might be gusa. So that's a kind of just a little tip if you are doing your sound effects in a Japanese manga, to experiment with adding or subtracting 10-10 in certain cases. So let's go ahead and draw this. So now, since this is a stabbing motion, where in the left-hand side we had very blocky text, on this side I want it to be very sharp. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use a Maru pen for this. And these aren't hard, fast rules. You could do whatever you feel like, basically. Just experiment. I mean, it's very Japanese manga particularly has a lot of very strict rules, but in terms of how you draw your KAKI-MOJI, it seems like they are a lot more lenient for whatever you want to do. So let's go ahead and kind of outline this with our Maru pen. Okay, and I have no idea what's going on at the bottom. I just felt like it needed something, so I just started filling in some areas just to get rid of negative space. And I'm going to go ahead and give some like kind of like action impressions, I guess you could call it, in the background with my brush pen. So, I mean, this is all stuff for other videos. I just wanted to kind of give an impression of it actually being a fully fleshed out frame, even though it's far from it. So, fairly simple. You just had your kusat sound, and I tried to make it taper off to kind of mimic the stabbing of the blade behind it. Yeah, I did not think at all about what this actual scene is actually conveying, so I don't know what kind of blade this is and what it's stabbing into, but use your imagination and come up with your own examples. So, here again we have another very simple one. Let's just do this real quick. You have the cup being placed down on the table, or on the what is called the platter. So I'm just going to do a kata in the corner here to just add a little flavor to that frame, to show that there is some type of sound going on there. And this is also, I guess it's going to be a somewhat sharp sound. So let's go ahead and use our Maru pen again, because since the Maru pen has a taper, it kind of lends itself well to sharp sounds, I think. This is basically just like an accent in the background, so it's not particularly prominent at all. But that's a very quick thing. And now let's go to the gashu in the bottom. And this is, I think I might actually split this into a second video. So actually, yeah, let's do the shu on the side here first, and then we'll do gashu as a separate video, whereas that's going to include the splattering, which I think is a pretty cool effect. So for this shu, you may have seen in the fast forward earlier that I was using this paper like this. It's just a very quick way to kind of mask a certain area of your genko. Genko is your manuscript, I guess, or your manga page. So I'm just gonna put this on the side here and take my brush pen. You can use a brush as well or anything. And I'm just gonna go along here and give some action flavor to the background here. So this shoe, I'm going to be putting a shoe here. That's a sound of something slashing. So it's going to be like a slash of a sword, I think, or something like that. So let's hear a shoe on that side, and then add it to this side too. I'm trying to keep more or less the same direction to my strokes, but I'm not stressing too much about it. You could use a ruler and make them specifically the right like parallel to each other, but I want this to be kind of a chaotic scene, so I don't mind it being a little imprecise. But I think I'm getting too much ink with this ink pen. So this is where I use my #1 favorite manga drawing device. Let's see, where are you? Where are you, buddy? Oh, there he is. The Menso Fude brush, or the Menso brush, I guess. I love this brush. I don't know if it's sold outside of Japan, but I'm sure another kind of like just Japanese brush would be good. But it just seems like it's the perfect size to be able to do brush work and also even do inking work on par, or sometimes even better in my opinion than nib pens. And I do have a video called Tools of the Mangaka if you want to look into the specifics of each of the tools I'm using. The audio is very bad in that video, so brace yourself. I'm thinking about actually remaking it with better audio in the future, but until then, that's there for you to check out if you would like. It is actually one of my most viewed videos, so despite its horrible audio. So let's see. So let's go here with the Menso Fude. I just like this a little bit better than the brush pen because I can control the ink a bit better. The brush pen, the ink kind of just flows out as it feels fit, whereas this I could control how much ink I'm dipping on it, how much ink I'm allowing to stay on it. Like there's no external flow of ink besides just what I decide to dip onto it, and also the other thing is how you hold it. Like I could have ink on one part of the brush and not another part of the brush, and kind of do different things with that you can't do with the ink pen. But anyways, there we go. So that's pretty good. And now, but I will use the ink pen for the actual moji, the actual lettering, because since I want this to be very thick and to come out strong, so this is going to be very broken. So the blocky text we had up here and the kind of sharp text here, they were all very controlled. This is more just like, there you go, just like stabbing it on there. Not stabbing it, but gabbing it, I guess, on there with your brush. And what we really want is those really nice like edges where the things just to kind of run off. Oh, this is shoe. I'm sorry, I started writing go. There we go. So this should go from here probably. There we go. And now I think I might actually go back with my Menso Fude because there's a lot of ink on that brush on that brush pen for some reason. All right. Now this was a mistake here, but I think it kind of lends to the scene all right, so I'll go ahead and leave it there. If I really wanted to, I could wait for it to dry and then cover it up with white ink. And the other thing I would do is also wait till it to dry and also do like what I did up here where I outlined the area outside of this so that it separates it from the background a little bit more. But I'm not going to make that mistake again of doing that right away and like getting kind of a grayish goo, so we're going to wait for it to dry for that. All right, so I mean that's pretty simple. This one might be a little bit thicker. I mean I could keep messing with this a lot, but I mean you just want to get your basic thing there, and then you could kind of mess with it afterwards and try to get it to look just the way you want with the right balance. For our next video, we'll do the last part, which is the gashu sound of. I don't know if that's a specific Japanese sound or something I made up. It was in one of my comics for a biting sound, so. That might be good for something biting into something squishy. And with this one, we'll also be doing the splattering. So we'll go ahead and do that for the next video. So till next time, stay inspired, be creative, and keep drawing. Yoroshiku.